The human explorer, Jackson, stepped carefully over the icy rocks of the distant planet, his boots crunching on the frozen ground. The sky above was a strange mix of green and purple, with two suns low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the frozen landscape. Jackson had received a mysterious signal from this place, a signal that was too precise to be natural and too strange to ignore. He adjusted his scanner and whispered to himself, "Someone, or something, is here." Suddenly, movement caught his eye, a small shape darting behind a rock, too quick to see clearly. He froze, his heart beating faster, as the figure peeked from behind the stone, and he realized it was a child. The child was small, with pale blue skin and glowing golden eyes, trembling in fear. Jackson knelt slowly, showing his hands were empty, hoping to appear friendly. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly, but the child didn't move, only stared. The air was cold and the wind blew sharply, carrying strange sounds like whispers in a language he did not know. Then, suddenly a woman appeared, her steps quiet but deliberate. Her skin shimmered like silver under the strange sunlight, and her eyes held a mixture of fear and hope. She looked directly at Jackson, and he felt a strange pull in his chest, as if she already knew him. Without a word, she kneeled beside the child and pulled out a small holographic picture from a hidden pocket. She held it up carefully, showing it to the child, and said softly, "He's the one. Your real father." Jackson's heart stopped, confusion and disbelief flooding his mind. "How? What do you mean?" he whispered, stepping closer, unsure if this was a trap. The woman's voice was steady but urgent. "It is true. He is connected to your child, more than you can understand." The child's eyes widened as he looked at Jackson, and for the first time he reached out slowly. Jackson froze, the chill in the air, ignored, as he felt the weight of the moment. The child's small hand trembled, hovering near his, and Jackson wondered if he should pull away or accept it. Before he could speak, a loud noise echoed from the cliffs above, a deep, vibrating roar. The woman's expression changed immediately from calm to fear, and she grabbed the child's hand, pulling him behind her. Jackson instinctively reached for his weapon, scanning the horizon. Through the haze, he saw large shapes moving fast, too big to be normal creatures, with glowing eyes and sharp claws. The wind blew harder now, making it difficult to hear, and the signal he had followed pulsed strangely in his pocket. Something told him these were not ordinary predators, but something that could hunt him easily if he made one wrong move. The woman whispered urgently, "We don't have much time. You must come with us." Jackson hesitated, torn between wanting to run and wanting to protect the child. The child looked at him with a mixture of fear and hope, and something in Jackson's heart shifted. He nodded slowly, his instincts telling him this was bigger than any mission, bigger than anything he had faced before. Together, they began moving through the icy canyon, the woman leading the way with surprising speed. Jackson kept his scanner active, watching for any sign of danger, every shadow seeming like a threat. As they moved, the woman finally spoke more about the child, her voice quiet but steady. "This child, he carries a part of you, a connection you do not yet understand," she said, glancing at Jackson. Jackson swallowed hard, trying to understand, his mind racing with questions. How can this be? How can I be connected to an alien child? The woman did not answer immediately, only motioned for him to stay close. "The time for questions will come. For now, survive with us," she said. The canyon grew narrower and jagged. Jet ice walls pressed close around them, the cold biting through their clothes. Every step was dangerous, but they had no choice but to continue. Suddenly, the child tripped over a loose rock and the woman caught him just in time. Jackson reached out instinctively, helping steady the child, feeling the warmth of his tiny hand against his own. It was strange, unexplainable, but a deep sense of responsibility filled Jackson's chest. The danger was real, the enemies were close, but he knew one thing for sure. He could not leave this child behind, and as the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting long, dark shadows across the ice, Jackson realized that nothing on this planet or beyond would ever be the same again. After escaping the jagged canyon, Jackson, the alien woman, and the child reached a narrow valley hidden between two towering ice cliffs. The wind howled around them, carrying an eerie sound like whispers from another world. Jackson felt the cold bite at his skin, but his mind raced faster than the freezing air. He kept glancing at the child, whose glowing golden eyes seemed to shine brighter in the dim light. The alien woman moved cautiously, holding the child close, her eyes scanning the horizon for any danger. Finally, she stopped behind a large ice boulder and turned to Jackson, her expression serious. "There is something you must know," she said quietly. "This child is not just any child. He is part of a plan that involves you." Jackson's brow furrowed, confusion and curiosity warring in his mind. What plan? How is he connected to me? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The woman looked at him, her silver skin shimmering under the fading sunlight. Years ago, your people helped us, she began. You shared knowledge, technology, things that were never meant to leave your world. Jackson's heart skipped a beat, memories of old missions and experiments flashing in his mind. He remembered reports of strange signals, lost research files, and promises he thought were forgotten. The woman continued, From T. Hat knowledge. Our people created him, using a connection that only you could provide. Jackson struggled to breathe, the impossible truth sinking in, and he realized this child was somehow part of him. The child stepped closer to Jackson, curiosity and trust in his wide eyes. Jackson knelt, trying to meet the child's gaze, and felt a strange warmth spreading in his chest. How? I don't understand. He began, but words failed him. The woman placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice soft but firm. It is not your fault, Jackson. You did not know, but the connection is real. Before Jackson could respond, a distant sound shattered the cold silence. It was the roar of something massive, moving fast across the icy valley. The woman's eyes widened, and she pulled the child behind her, crouching low. They are coming, she said, her voice trembling slightly. They want him. They will not stop. Jackson felt adrenaline surge, his mind racing for a plan. The shapes of massive alien hunters appeared on the horizon, shadows stretching across the ice, their glowing red eyes fixed on the group. They are not just animals, the woman whispered. They are hunters, trained to capture him, to control his power. Jackson glanced at the child, whose small hand reached for his, and in that moment, he made a decision. I won't let them take him, he said, determination replacing fear. The woman nodded, relief flashing in her eyes. Then you must trust me, and move quickly. Together, they ran across the icy valley, slipping and sliding, the hunters gaining ground fast. Every step was dangerous, every sound a possible threat. Jackson used his knowledge of terrain and survival, sliding under low ice arches, jumping over frozen streams. The child clung to the woman, his small hands trembling, but his glowing eyes never left Jackson. As they paused behind another boulder, the woman finally revealed. Add more of the hidden truth. This child carries something rare, she said, something your people never imagined. He has a gift, a part of your essence that links him to the universe. Jackson stared at the child, trying to comprehend. A gift? What kind of gift? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. The woman looked serious, almost fearful. A power that some will kill to control. A power that could change worlds if it falls into the wrong hands. Jackson swallowed hard, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He realized that saving the child was not just about survival. It was about protecting something bigger than anything he had ever faced. Suddenly, the hunters attacked, massive claws slashing through the ice around them. Jackson grabbed a chunk of frozen rock and hurled it, buying a moment of time. The woman moved swiftly, guiding the child through a narrow crevice, unseen by their pursuers. The air was thick with tension, every second stretching into an eternity. Jackson's heart pounded, fear mixing with a strange connection he had never felt before. The child looked up at him, trust shining in his golden eyes, and Jackson knew he could not fail. He had to survive, not just for himself, but for this child, for the secret that tied them together. As the hunters roared in frustration, unable to follow through the narrow crevice, the woman exhaled a mix of relief and anxiety and whispered, "We must keep moving. The truth is still ahead, and danger is not over." Jackson nodded, determination settling into his bones. He glanced at the child again, realizing that the impossible connection he had once doubted was real. The child was his responsibility now, and he would do whatever it took to protect him. As they disappeared further into the icy shadows of the valley, Jackson knew their journey was only beginning, and that the hidden truth he had just discovered would change everything. The hunters were relentless, their glowing red eyes cutting through the icy darkness. Jackson could hear the crunch of ice beneath their massive feet, each step shaking the ground. He tightened his grip on his scanner, scanning every shadow, every crevice. The alien woman held the child close, whispering softly to calm him, but the tension in her body was clear. "Stay close," she urged. "We cannot let them catch us." Jackson nodded, adrenaline pumping through his veins, his mind racing for a way out. The icy valley stretched before them, jagged cliffs rising on both sides. Every path seemed dangerous, every step a risk. But Jackson knew they had to move. He led the way, Remembering old survival drills from missions long ago, he noticed a narrow tunnel between two cliffs, partially hidden by a wall of ice. "This way," he shouted, motioning for the woman and child to follow. They hurried through the tunnel, the walls close around them, the air cold and sharp. Behind them, the hunters roared, smashing ice and stone in their pursuit. Jackson could feel the vibrations through the frozen ground, each one shaking his chest. He glanced at the child, whose small hands clutched the woman's sleeve. The child's glowing eyes flickered with fear, but also a strange curiosity. As if sensing something in Jackson, the woman whispered urgently, "We must keep moving. They are fast, but they cannot follow everywhere." Jackson nodded, pushing himself harder, slipping and sliding on the icy floor. As they moved deeper into the tunnel, Jackson noticed strange markings on the walls, symbols that seemed to glow faintly, pulsing in rhythm with the child's heartbeat. "Look at this," he said, pointing. "These markings, they're not natural." The woman's eyes widened. "They were left by my people. A warning and a guide," she said. Jackson's mind raced, realizing that the tunnel might be more than just a hiding place. It could be a path designed to protect the child, to lead them to safety. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and a chunk of ice fell from above, narrow. Wholly missing them, Jackson grabbed the child instinctively, pulling him out of the way. The woman hissed, "They are trying to block us. They know the tunnels." Jackson's heart pounded, fear mixing with determination. He realized that the hunters were not just following, they were planning, adapting, hunting intelligently. Every step forward was a gamble, but turning back was impossible. They reached a narrow ledge overlooking a frozen chasm. Below, jagged ice spikes stretched like the teeth of some great beast. Jackson measured the distance, his mind calculating every possibility. The woman held the child tightly, her eyes searching his for approval. "We have to jump," Jackson said. "It's the only way across." The child's eyes widened, but he nodded, trusting Jackson instinctively. With a deep breath, Jackson ran first, landing safely on the other side, sliding to absorb the impact. The woman followed, the child in her arms, their landing perfect but tense. Behind them, a roar of frustration echoed through the tunnels, the hunters still relentless. Jackson looked around, spotting a hidden crevice partially covered with snow. "This way, quick!" he shouted, leading them into the narrow space. They squeezed through, the walls tight and icy, but it was enough to hide them temporarily. The hunters passed by, unable to follow, their glowing eyes scanning the wrong path. Inside the crevice, the group paused to catch their breath, the child's small body trembling in the woman's arms. Jackson knelt, examining the child carefully. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice soft. The child nodded slowly, still unsure but trusting him. The woman smiled faintly, relief washing over her face. "He is stronger than they think, and stronger than you may realize." Jackson looked at the child, noticing the faint glow around him, pulsing softly with every breath. A strange warmth spread through Jackson's chest, a bond forming that went beyond understanding. Suddenly, a faint light appeared ahead, a soft blue glow illuminating the tunnel walls. The woman whispered, "Gay, that is the sanctuary, a hidden place where no hunters can reach." Jackson's heart lifted slightly, hope rising, but he remained cautious, knowing the danger was not completely gone. They moved carefully toward the glow, every sound amplified in the icy silence. The child looked up at Jackson and smiled faintly, and for a brief moment the fear seemed to fade. Jackson smiled back, feeling a strange sense of purpose he had never known. He realized that protecting this child was no longer just about survival, it was about destiny. As they approached the sanctuary, the air changed, warmer and calm. The ice walls glowed faintly, almost alive, and Jackson felt a strange energy pulsing through him. The woman placed the child on the ground gently, letting him touch the glowing walls. The child's eyes widened, the glow reflecting in them, and he whispered softly, "It feels safe." Jackson nodded, a sense of relief washing over him, but he knew the journey was far from over. The hunters would return, and the secrets the child carried were still dangerous. But for now, they had survived, and the bond between Jackson and the child had grown stronger. Together, they stood in the glowing sanctuary, ready for whatever came next. The sanctuary was quiet, almost alive, the soft blue glow from the walls reflecting in the child's golden eyes. Jackson knelt beside him, still trying to understand the strange connection he felt. The child's small fingers traced the glowing patterns on the walls, and the energy seemed to respond, pulsing gently with each touch. Jackson watched in awe, a mixture of wonder and unease growing in his chest. He had faced countless dangers, but nothing like this, nothing that made him feel so responsible. The alien woman stood close, her silver skin shimmering softly in the glow. She looked at Jackson with a mixture of hope and caution. "He is ready to show you the bond," she said. Jackson frowned, unsure what she meant, but he felt a pull in his chest like something inside him was awakening. The child looked up at him, his small face serious, and whispered in a voice too deep for his size, "Father, I feel you. I know you." Jackson's breath caught, disbelief and awe colliding. He knelt closer, reaching out slowly, and the child's hand met his, glowing faintly. A warmth spread through Jackson's body, like an invisible thread connecting them. The woman spoke softly, almost reverently. "This bond, it has always existed, but it can only awaken when you accept it." Jackson shook his head, still struggling to understand. "But I never knew. How is this possible?" The child's eyes glowed brighter, and he placed his small hand on Jackson's chest. "I remember. Memories of you, of your kindness, your courage," he said. Jackson felt a wave of emotion he had never experienced, a mixture of love, fear, and responsibility. It was as if the child's presence unlocked something deep inside him, something he could not explain. Suddenly, the sanctuary pulsed with energy, the walls glowing brighter. Jackson and the woman stepped back instinctively, shielding the child as a strange vibration ran through the ground. The child laughed softly, a sound full of wonder and light, and pointed at the walls. "The patterns. They are singing. For us," he said. Jackson watched in amazement as the glowing symbols shifted, forming shapes he could almost understand. It was as if the child and the sanctuary were communicating in a language older than time. The bond between Jackson and the child seemed to strengthen with every pulse, every shimmer of light. The woman explained, "Long ago, our people created sanctuaries like this to protect the children connected to humans. They carry a part of your essence, a connection that cannot be broken." Jackson's mind raced, realizing that the child was more than just a life to protect. He was a bridge between worlds, a responsibility that went beyond survival, beyond danger, beyond anything he had ever faced. The child reached up and touched Jackson's face gently, glowing softly under his fingertips. "I know you," he whispered again. "I trust you." Jackson felt tears sting his eyes, a surge of emotion he had fought to suppress for years. For the first time, he understood the depth of the bond, the invisible thread linking them across worlds. Suddenly, the silence of the sanctuary was broken by a faint noise outside. Jackson tensed, instincts kicking in, but the woman shook her head. "Not danger, curiosity," she said. A small creature, almost like a spirit made of light, appeared at the entrance, glowing faintly. It circled the child, recognizing him, and then hovered near Jackson, as if acknowledging him too. Jackson felt a strange calm, as if the sanctuary itself approved of this bond. The child laughed again, reaching out to the glowing creature, and Jackson realized that he was witnessing something extraordinary, something that transcended fear, danger, and even logic. The woman stepped closer, her voice soft but urgent. "You must learn to trust this bond, Jackson. It will protect him and guide you, but only if you accept it fully." Jackson nodded slowly, feeling the warmth in his chest spread, connecting him to the child in ways he could barely comprehend. The child pressed his small hand against Jackson's heart again, and the glow intensified. Images flashed in Jackson's mind, memories that were not his, yet felt familiar. He saw himself in places he had never been, with people he had never met, protecting the child through dangers he had never faced. It was as if time and space had woven their lives together, and now he could see it clearly. For the first time, Jackson understood the weight of responsibility. He could no longer think of this child as just someone he needed to save. He was part of him, and he was part of the child. The bond was real, unbreakable, and alive. Jackson looked down at the child, whose glowing eyes reflected his own awe and trust. He smiled faintly, feeling a strange sense of purpose. No matter what dangers lay ahead, he knew he would protect this child with every part of himself. And as the sanctuary pulsed softly around them, Jackson felt a quiet certainty that together they could face whatever the universe sent their way. The sanctuary faded behind them as Jackson, the alien woman, and the child moved carefully through the frozen terrain. The wind carried an icy bite, but Jackson felt a new energy inside him, the bond with the child stronger than ever. The woman led them to a hidden cave, almost invisible beneath a blanket of snow and ice. "This place," she whispered, "is where it all began. The secret laboratory where your child's story started." Jackson's eyes widened, curiosity and unease mixing in his chest. He had faced many dangers, but this felt like stepping into the heart of something he had never imagined. The entrance to the laboratory was sealed with a strange metallic door, covered in alien symbols that glowed faintly. The woman pressed her hand against the surface, and the symbols shifted, forming a pathway that opened with a soft hiss. Jackson stepped inside cautiously, scanning the dark interior. The lab was enormous, frozen in time, with broken machinery, scattered data pads, and glowing vials lining the walls. It smelled faintly of ozone and chemicals, the air heavy with the weight of forgotten experiments. The child walked carefully beside the woman, his small hand occasionally glowing as he touched objects. The glow seemed to react to the child, illuminating palpable. There's and hidden compartments. Jackson's eyes caught a series of holographic recordings flickering faintly in the darkness. He approached one, activating it, and an image appeared. A human scientist speaking to a room of alien researchers. The voice was calm but urgent. The experiment requires a human link, a father connection. The child must inherit traits from both species. Jackson's heart skipped a beat, his mind struggling to comprehend the revelation. He realized that he had unknowingly played a part in this long before, through choices he had never understood. The woman's eyes were solemn as she watched him. You see now, the child carries a part of you, a connection that others would kill to control. As they moved deeper into the laboratory, they found a large chamber, circular and filled with strange energy. Glowing lines traced patterns across the floor, and the air vibrated softly, almost alive. The child stepped into the center, and the glow from his hands expanded, illuminating the room completely. Jackson felt the pulse of power in the air, a force that seemed to resonate with his own heartbeat. This is where it began, the woman said softly, where the connection was created, where the child became what he is. Jackson looked at the child, awe filling his chest, realizing that this small being was not just innocent. He was extraordinary. Suddenly, a hidden panel slid open in the wall, revealing more data pads and a strange device humming with energy. Jackson approached cautiously, examining the inscriptions, trying to understand their purpose. The woman whispered, "Those who built this laboratory knew the dangers. They left warnings for anyone who came after." Jackson tapped the device and a holographic map of the galaxy appeared, with blinking points marking locations of other experiments. He realized the child was not the only one, but perhaps the most important, carrying the key to something much larger. The child reached out, touching the holographic map, and the points shifted slightly, responding to him. Jackson felt a thrill and fear at the same time. Enemies could track this power if they knew. A sudden noise made them all freeze, a deep echo through the laboratory corridors. Jackson's hand went instinctively to his scanner, the child hiding behind the woman's silver shimmer. From the shadows, movement emerged, strangers, tall and menacing, with glowing eyes and weapons designed to capture. "They've found us," the woman hissed, her grip tightening around the child. Jackson's heart raced, adrenaline surging, as he realized the lab was no longer safe. They had to move, but the child's presence here was powerful, and the strangers clearly sensed it. Jackson quickly scanned the chamber, spotting a narrow escape tunnel behind a broken wall. The child's glow intensified, as if sensing the danger, his small hands casting light that danced along the walls. Jackson felt the energy pulse through him, the bond guiding his steps, giving him courage he had never known. The woman whispered urgently, "We must go now. The laboratory is not safe any longer." Jackson nodded, picking up the child carefully, and together they ran toward the tunnel. The strangers followed, their steps echoing through the vast chamber, weapons ready, eyes fixed on the child. Every second felt like a lifetime, the danger closing in. But the bond between Jackson and the child gave him focus. He realized that their escape depended not just on speed, but on understanding the child's power and trusting the connection. As they disappeared into the tunnel, the glow from the child faded slightly, but Jackson felt the energy in his chest. He knew the secrets of the laboratory would not remain hidden for long, and enemies would come. But he also knew that the child's bond with him was stronger than any threat, stronger than any weapon. Together, they had survived the laboratory, uncovered its secrets, and faced dangers that no ordinary human could withstand. Jackson looked at the child, whose golden eyes reflected his own determination. "We are just beginning," he whispered, "and whatever comes next, we will face it together." The tunnel led them further into the icy mountains, carrying with it the promise of danger, discovery, and the growing bond that would guide them. The icy tunnel twisted and narrowed, shadows flickering from the child's soft glow. Jackson carried the child carefully, the alien woman moving just behind, her eyes sharp and alert. Every step echoed off the frozen walls, each sound amplified in the tight space. The distant roar of the hunters grew louder, vibrating through the ice. "They are close," the woman whispered urgently, her voice trembling slightly. Jackson's heart pounded, adrenaline surging as he scanned for escape routes, every nerve on edge. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern, the ceiling high and jagged. Icicles hung like giant teeth, and frozen stalagmites rose from the floor, creating a maze. The hunters emerged at the other end, their glowing red eyes piercing the darkness. They moved swiftly, intelligent and coordinated, their claws scraping the ice. Jackson set the child down carefully, the small figure glowing brighter as if sensing the danger. "Stay close," he said, positioning himself between the child and the hunters. The alien woman readied her own weapon, her silver skin gleaming in the faint light. The hunters advanced, hissing and growling, circling them slowly. Jackson's mind raced, searching for a strategy, every instinct screaming to protect the child. Then the child stepped forward, tiny hands raised, and the glow exploded. Undead, the ice around them shimmered and vibrated, a wave of energy pulsing outward. The hunters recoiled, confused, their coordination breaking as the light touched them. Jackson realized the child's power was not just defensive. It could influence the environment, the ice, even the hunter's senses. He felt the bond pulsing stronger than ever, guiding his thoughts, giving him clarity. The woman shouted, "We must use the cavern to our advantage. Lead them into the center." Jackson nodded, signaling the child, and together they moved strategically through the jagged maze. The hunters followed, their glowing eyes fixed on the child, but the energy from the child made them hesitate. Jackson noticed the ceiling above, an array of sharp icicles hanging precariously, and a dangerous idea formed. "If we can trap them under the icicles, we might have a chance," he whispered to the woman. She nodded, understanding immediately, and together they lured the hunters into the center of the cavern. The child's glow pulsed brighter, the ice beneath the hunter's feet starting to shift. Jackson took a deep breath and shouted, "Now!" The child raised his small hands, and with a burst of energy, the icicles above trembled and fell, crashing toward the hunters. The hunters roared, scattering, some trapped under the falling ice, others fleeing into the shadows. Jackson felt the bond with the child guiding his movements, every decision instinctive, precise. The alien woman moved swiftly, striking with her weapon to block any hunter that survived. Together, they fought as one, human and alien, guided by trust and a connection beyond words. The battle raged, the cavern alive with energy and danger. The child's glow expanded again, forming a protective barrier around them. Jackson could feel the child's thoughts, his fear, his determination, and it gave him strength. The hunters, confused and overwhelmed by the energy, began to retreat. One massive hunter lunged at the child, but Jackson stepped forward instinctively, tackling it to the ground. The woman struck from behind, and together they forced the hunter away. Finally, the last of the hunters fled into the icy darkness, leaving the cavern silent except for their heavy breathing. Jackson knelt beside the child, checking him for injuries, his hands trembling slightly. The child smiled faintly, golden eyes glowing softly, and whispered, "We did it. Together." Jackson felt a warmth in his chest, the bond stronger than ever, a mixture of relief and pride washing over him. The woman exhaled, leaning against the ice wall. "They will come again, but now we know. Your bond is stronger than any threat." Jackson looked around the cavern, realizing the power of the child and the sanctuary, and the responsibility that came with it. This child was not just a life to protect. He was a force that could change worlds, and now Jackson understood the truth fully. They were not alone, and together they could survive anything. The child stepped forward, glowing faintly, and touched Jackson's chest. "I trust you. Always," he said, the words simple but full of meaning. Jackson's eyes watered, emotion overwhelming him, but he smiled, determination etched on his face. "We will face it together," he said, his voice firm, "no matter what comes." The woman nodded, placing a hand on the child's shoulder, her eyes softening with relief. The cavern seemed to pulse with energy, almost alive, as if acknowledging their victory. Jackson realized that the final confrontation had not just been about survival, but about understanding the bond, a bond that would guide them, protect them, and give them the courage to face whatever universe lay ahead. As they stood together, the child's glow illuminating their faces, Jackson knew that danger was far from over, but hope had returned, and for the first time in a long time, he felt truly ready to embrace the responsibility, to protect this extraordinary child, to uncover the secrets of his power, and to face whatever came next. The bond between human and child, father and son, human and alien, had been tested, proven, and strengthened, and together they would step forward into the unknown, stronger than fear, stronger than danger, stronger than anything that tried to tear them apart. The icy winds of the distant planet had calmed, the stars above casting a soft glow across the frozen landscape. Jackson, the alien woman, and the child stood together at the edge of a cliff, the danger behind them, but the future unknown. The child's small hands rested in Jackson's, glowing faintly as if sensing his calm determination. For the first time, Jackson felt a sense of peace, a quiet certainty that they had survived the worst. The alien woman looked at him with a soft smile, her silver skin shimmering in the starlight. "We are safe for now," she said, "but the universe is still full of challenges." Jackson nodded, feeling the bond with the child stronger than ever. He realized that this child was not just someone to protect. He was family, something deeper, beyond species, beyond worlds, something that connected them in ways he could barely understand. The child looked up at him, golden eyes shining, and whispered, "Father, we are together now." Jackson's chest tightened with emotion, a warmth spreading through him. "Yes, together," he said, his voice steady, filled with resolve and love. The alien woman stepped closer, placing a hand on Jackson's shoulder, her eyes gentle but filled with gratitude. They moved together through the frozen valleys, the child walking between them, his small hands glowing softly. Every step was cautious, yet calm, as if the bond itself guided them. Jackson noticed how the child reacted to the world, sensing danger and light, guiding them toward safe paths. It was strange, unexplainable, but Jackson felt a deep trust in this connection, a trust that filled the emptiness he had carried for years. The alien woman spoke softly. "He will grow stronger, and one day, the bond will guide him beyond anything we can imagine." Jackson smiled faintly, realizing that the child's power was not just extraordinary, it was a gift that would connect humans and aliens, worlds and hearts, in ways no one could foresee. As they approached a small settlement hidden in the ice, they were greeted by a few curious eyes. Aliens with silver and blue skin watched them carefully, sensing the child's energy. Jackson kept his hand on the child, letting him lead the way. The woman whispered, "This is a safe place for now, a place where we can rest, heal, and prepare." The child's glow pulsed gently as he explored, touching walls and stones, sensing the energy of the place. Jackson watched him, feeling a mixture of pride and awe. He realized that the child's presence had changed him too, making him more aware, more careful, more alive. That night, they sat by a small fire in a cavern that had been carved into the ice. The warmth of the fire reflected in the child's eyes, and he leaned against Jackson's side, glowing faintly. Jackson looked at the alien woman, who had prepared a small meal with care, and smiled faintly. "We made it," he said, "together." The woman nodded, her eyes soft. "Yes, together." The child laughed softly, the sound warm and bright in the cold cavern. "It feels like home," he whispered, and Jackson felt his chest tighten. He realized that no matter where the universe took them, this bond, this connection, would always guide them. The next morning, the settlement's guardians approached cautiously, but seeing the child and Jackson together, they nodded in respect, recognizing the bond that connected human and alien, father and child, protector and protected. Jackson spoke to them calmly. "We mean no harm. We are family now." The guardians studied him, then stepped aside, allowing them passage. The alien woman smiled. "This is the beginning, not the end," she said. Jackson realized she was right. The journey was far from over, but they were no longer alone. Days turned into weeks, and the child grew stronger, exploring the settlement under Jackson's careful watch. The bond between them deepened, guiding their movements, their decisions, and their understanding of the universe around them. The alien woman trained with them, teaching both the child and Jackson about the power and responsibility they carried. Jackson found a quiet joy he had never known, protecting, guiding, and learning from the child. He realized that this was more than a mission, more than survival. It was family. A family born across worlds, shaped by danger, strengthened by trust, and bound by an invisible thread that connected hearts, minds, and souls. One evening, as the twin suns set in the distance, painting the sky with green and purple light, Jackson, the child, and the woman stood together on a cliff, looking out at the frozen horizon. The child's glow pulsed softly, the bond between them alive and strong. Jackson placed a hand on the child's shoulder, feeling the warmth, the trust, the connection. "We will face the future together," he said, his voice steady and full of certainty. The woman nodded. "And whatever comes, we will survive because we are family." The child smiled, golden eyes shining in the fading light. "Yes, together." And as the stars began to twinkle above, Jackson realized that they were not just surviving anymore. They were living, bound together by a bond that no danger, no enemy, and no universe could ever break.